Hey guys, what's going on? My name's Akshay. Welcome back to the Sports 2.0 Network. We've got a great panel here with Grant Mitchell, Amber Williams, and Jaya Williams. We're going to be talking about Power 5 conferences heading into the 2021 college football season. There's a lot of good teams out there that we think that can make some noise in the college football playoff as well. But before we begin, make sure you subscribe to the Sports 2.0 Network. We have been absolutely blowing up as of late. And it is just great to see. The growth is amazing. Thank you, guys. Continue to subscribe. We've got great content coming for you, especially with football season right away. So let's just go ahead and dive right into this. We'll talk about the ACC since we're all in the ACC as well. Obviously, Clemson are the favorites to win this conference. But, I mean, there's plenty of good teams out there that obviously won't win the conference but can compete with Clemson. Grant, we'll start with you. Who do you think is a potential dark horse to maybe come in second in this conference?
Yeah, that's the thing. We're only talking about which team is going to finish second because we know Clemson is going to win this conference, barring a major disaster. Their backups could go in and probably win the conference. So everybody's fighting for second place at this point. Notre Dame won the conference, at least the regular season last year. They went 9-0. I think they're going to take a ginormous step backwards. Ian Book is gone. They didn't replace a lot of the players that they lost to the NFL draft. I think NC State is absolutely a dark horse to watch. I really love what they did with their recruit class. Whether or not they get on the field, that remains to be seen. And they could be a project, more for the future. But I do think they have impact players on their roster. UNC is probably the biggest question mark for this conference, in my opinion. They have Sam Howell, who some people's early Heisman pick. Some people think he might be the first overall draft pick in next year's NFL draft. That ranges. He's not a consensus surefire guy, but he was one of the best deep ball throwers last year. He lost his top target in Diami Brown. He's got the defense is a lot worse. Most of the offense, their skill position players are gone too. But then they get guys out the portal. They get a Tennessee running back to come in. So it's really the key for them is just going to be figuring out whether or not they can fit all of their pieces together and if Sam Howell is actually that guy or not. So the two North Carolina teams, those would be my teams to watch aside from Clemson.
All right, yeah, those are very solid picks. Jaya, what are your thoughts? Who do you think will possibly come in second or make some noise as well in the ACC?
Well, I mean, you can call me biased if you want to, but I definitely have a lot of faith in my Miami Hurricanes, and I'm going to tell you why I think this. We have a lot of really solid veterans this year. Miami's returning with 10 out of 11 offensive starters, 9 out of 11 of their defensive starters, and there are a lot of leaders that are going to be returning. Our new quarterback, Garrett King, Bubba Bolden, Mike Harley, Cam Harris, Zach McLeod, all really, really strong guys. So we have a lot of veteran experience, and we beefed up our O-line. We have tons of incoming freshmen, a lot of new talent. So I really think that we can do it. Our first game is against Alabama, and I think how that game goes will really speak for the rest of the season. But I do have a lot of faith in my Hurricanes this year.
Yeah, the U is almost back. I also go there as well. But I mean, that Alabama game definitely might make or break our season as well. But we've got definitely a lot of depth, as you said. So Amber, we'll go over to you now. Who do you think will make a potential run in the ACC this season?
I see North Carolina doing that. I mean, they finished number 18 in the final AP poll. For preseason rankings, they're at 14. Of course, they lost a ton of big names, but, their quarterback, Sam Howell, is back for his third season, and I think he's going to be a Heisman favorite. So for me, it's got to be North Carolina for number 2.
That's also a solid pick. I actually was going to go with UNC as well. I think Sam Howell is great. He did lose almost all of his skill position. He lost those two great running backs, Javonte Williams and Michael Carter, to the NFL draft. But, Mac Brown is still a great coach. He was a great coach at Texas, and he brought over that, winning mentality here at UNC. So I think they have a really good chance. It's really the Coastal Division is really going to come between Miami and UNC, and whoever really wins that matchup in October, I think will definitely win the Coastal and play Clemson in the ACC championship. But I think UNC is a little bit more well-rounded. They've got a slightly better coach in Mac Brown than Manny Diaz. Miami. So I think, and they have that advantage where they literally blew out Miami last season. So I think they have a lot of momentum going into the season. I think they have a fairly easy schedule outside of the ACC, so that's going to help them as well going into December. So I think UNC is definitely a dark horse in this conference. I think they could actually, give Clemson a bunch of their money in the ACC championship as well, considering we haven't really seen that in the past couple of years. So we'll move on to, speaking of dominance, we'll move on to the SEC here. Alabama is, obviously the clear favorites to win the SEC again. They just won the national championship. Bryce Young has been, already made 7 figures. It hasn't even started the game yet. So you can already tell that he's got a ton of potential there. And it's Alabama, they'll lose people to the draft, but they always have 5-star recruits coming in every season. And Nick Saban is the best head coach in college football history. But there are plenty of other great teams in the SEC with, Florida, LSU. So, Amber, we'll go back to you here. Who do you think is a possible second or could even dethrone Alabama in the SEC this season?
I think Texas A&M is a little bit underrated here. They finished 9-1 in 2020. They're number 4 in the AP poll. And, of course, their former quarterback, Kellen Mond, is going to be gone. So we have some type of competition going on between Haynes King and Zach Calzada. But, King seems to be the early favorite in the fall camp. He seems to be putting up some very good numbers. And their defense is just full of absolute veterans that are going to be able to back up whoever is their QB. So I think Texas A&M can be some real competition for Alabama.
Yeah, they almost kept it close with Alabama. That was their one loss last season. A lot of people thought that Texas A&M should have been in the college football playoff compared to Ohio State. But, they still produced, great talent. Kellen Mond, they had a great season, and they won the Orange Bowl against UNC. So I would say that's a pretty successful season, and that's a very solid pick. Grant, we'll go with you here. Who do you think is a potential dark horse or could, dethrone Alabama in the SEC?
Yeah, I don't know if Texas A&M is a dark horse for the reasons you just mentioned, but I absolutely think that they're going to be one of the strongest teams in this conference. I'm not going to be that guy. I'm going to pick Alabama to win the conference. It's a lesson I learned from my grandpa, actually. When I was growing up and we would make our Super Bowl picks at the start of every year, every single year he said the New England Patriots were going to win the Super Bowl. And so after about 10 years, I said, why are you picking the Patriots? And he said, because they have a better chance than anybody else to do it. And that's the case with Alabama. You're picking Alabama or the field. And even in that scenario, you probably still take Alabama. So they're my number one. I love Texas A&M. I think they've got a great thing going on down there. I don't know if they can, sustain this run for the next 10, 15, 20 years and become a dynasty down there, but I absolutely think in the near future they're going to be one of the teams to watch. I think Georgia is probably my team that I'm most interested to see play. I want to see if JT Daniels can, step up. There's been a lot of talk about him, even though his stats haven't been incredible in his college career. There's a lot of talk that, this guy could be a Heisman candidate. So they're my team to watch for this season.
Yeah, Georgia had a QB carousel last season, so hopefully JT Daniels is the guy to replace Jake Fromm, who was a great starter for them. Jaya, we'll go with you here. Who do you think will possibly dethrone Alabama, if possible?
Well, yes, there's definitely no debate here. I'm going with Alabama as well for number 1. But I'm glad that you brought up UGA because that's actually who I have high expectations for. You guys mentioned it. After losing Jake Fromm, it seems like JT Daniels is going to be the new guy. And I think that they really are the underdogs here. Yes, it's a disadvantage because it's always, adjusting to a new leader and a new quarterback. But I do have very high expectations for him. There's no doubt that this is a talented guy, and I think that their season is going to be something that everyone's going to be talking about this year for sure.
Yeah, a lot of people are very high on UGA. They think that, this could be their year. They've always brought in so many top recruits. But we'll see how that quarterback play goes for them. Moving on into the Big Ten, obviously Justin Fields is foregoing his senior season, going to the NFL. But Ohio State is still the favorites to win the Big Ten. I think they're the best overall team. They're well-rounded. They have great quarterback depth as well. Joel, we'll go back to you here to start. I mean, is this Ohio State's conference to lose, and is there anybody that could really compete with them?
Yeah, I do still think that Ohio State is the strongest team in the Big Ten. It will be interesting to see what happens. Like, same thing going with UGA, adjusting to a new leader, to a new quarterback, but I don't anticipate that it's going to be a difficult season for them. I feel like they always have their next guys kind of ready, and they're going to be developing a lot over this camp. I think another really good team to look out for is Penn State. I really, really am liking their chances this year. I just think that they're pretty strong on both sides of the coin. So I think they could be the team to give Ohio State a little bit of a run for their money, or at least challenge them in some capacity this season.
Yeah, Penn State had a very disappointing 2020 season, but they did have a very good bounce back towards the end. So hopefully they can carry that momentum going into this season. Amber, we'll go with you here. Is this Ohio State's conference to lose, or is somebody going to finally dethrone Ohio State?
This is 100% Ohio State's conference. They defeated Clemson last season. And yeah, Justin Fields is gone, but they still have strong leadership with Ryan Day. And then I think personally that they could have the best offensive line in college football this season. So, of course, they're going to rule the conference with that. But like Jaya, I would say Penn State is worth mentioning. They do not have the ability to dethrone Ohio State, in my opinion, at all. But obviously they had such a rough last year, but they have a new offensive coordinator with Mike Yurcich, I hope I'm saying that right, from Texas. And so I think they will be good to watch, but I do not think they're going to contend at all with Ohio State.
Mm-hmm. Grant, do you have any objections here? Or, I mean, who do you think could possibly come in second or try to possibly dethrone Ohio State if possible?
I have no objections. I think Amber and I must have gotten our notes from the same place, because I think Ohio State does have the best offensive line in the country. And if there's one thing that Ryan Day can do, he can produce a quarterback. So it doesn't matter that Justin Fields is gone, the same way it didn't matter that Dwayne Haskins was gone, the same way it never matters. Ohio State churns out quarterbacks. Now, they're not always the best NFL products, but hey, that's a different story. We're talking about college. So Ohio State is going to win this conference. If I had to take a look at second there, I've got the odds up right in front of me. It looks like Michigan and Penn State are the second, third favorites, and I honestly don't like either of them. I think Harbaugh is a career loser in big games. I have no faith in him when the money's on the table. Penn State, not as bad of a situation. I think Franklin is a decent coach, but they are still sort of cut from that cloth, I think. I don't think they're that dominant team that they were, at the start of the early 2000s. As a Virginia Tech fan, they've been ripping my heart out with some of their commits they've got for the class of 2022. That's a different story. One team I'm really excited for, and maybe this is me living in the moment because we don't see it too much. I think the Indiana Hoosiers are going to have a great year. They're usually god-awful, but last year they were pretty good. They lost their quarterback, I think, in the last game of the season. No, not the last game of the season, 2 or 3 ago. Michael Penix Jr., he's on track to be back from an ACL injury. So Indiana, I think they're building something there. Again, this might be a situation where they're building for the future, but I still think they could compete for second place this season.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Indiana is a great team. They had a very successful season, 2020 season, despite all the COVID issues. But I mean, they're going to be a great team as well going into the season. I think that this is obviously Ohio State's conference to lose. I mean, if you're going to bring back Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson, the two arguably the best duo at the receiver position, any quarterback can thrive off of that as well. So I think they're having no problem running the gauntlet here. I think a dark horse team to possibly, give Ohio State some challenge is Wisconsin. I think right now they're the favorites to win the division. That would, grant them the right to play Ohio State in the conference championship. But they're bringing back a ton of starters on a very young defense. I think that they'll take that next step and mature. I think Graham Mertz, I think he's a great quarterback. If he can take that next step in his development and mature as a quarterback, I think that this team can go really far. I think this is arguably one of the more talented Wisconsin teams, especially, now that Jonathan Taylor is gone. This is, it's a lot of people weren't very high on them, but they had a very, decent season, and they brought in some great recruits here. So I think that they are a very good team, and I think they'll have a very good chance at, probably keeping it close with Ohio State, but obviously Ohio State's going to win this thing with ease. Moving on to another big conference, but a lot of controversy going on here. We'll go to the Big 12 here. Obviously, Oklahoma, for the foreseeable future, as long as they're in the conference, they are going to be the favorites. But obviously, they and Texas are leaving. They're trying to go to the SEC. But right now, in 2021, they are the favorites to win the conference. Grant, we'll go with you here. Do you see anybody being able to, use this fuel as kind of like revenge against Oklahoma and try to take them down?
I would have to pick Oklahoma as the favorites. I was a little shaky on them just because their defense was, so bad for those years where, they weren't making the college football playoff, or they'd make it and then they'd get bounced, and everybody's saying, they don't belong there. I'm starting to have more faith in them. They're getting a little more consistent year to year. So I would take Oklahoma to win. One team that I definitely want to watch, and it's mostly because I want to watch one player, Iowa State. I want to see Breece Hall. He's the only running back that's in the Heisman conversation. He had 1,500 rushing yards as a freshman last year. He looks like he's the best running back in college right now. Got to see it for another year to believe it, especially now that the expectations are on him. And Iowa State had their program's best season ever, probably, last season. So they're my team to watch, even though I would say Oklahoma is probably going to win.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is really Oklahoma's to win, but Iowa State definitely opened up some eyes last season. Amber, we'll go with you here. Do you think that Oklahoma will reign again? And if so, is there any team that could possibly come in second and give them a run for their money?
I definitely agree that this is Oklahoma's conference this year. Their quarterback is possibly Heisman worthy, and they have such good defensive depth, and their defensive coordinator knows how to develop that talent. But for actual other teams that I'm watching, although I don't think they're in contention, would be Texas, another team who said they're going to be going to the SEC. So their new coach was incredibly successful as Alabama's offensive coordinator. So I think he's going to bring some big stuff to the table for them. They haven't been great, so I know they're not exactly going to defeat Oklahoma for any title here, but I think they're very much worth mentioning.
Yeah, I agree. Jaya, do you have any objections here, or are you pretty much on board with Oklahoma?
I think it's fair to say that most likely it will be Oklahoma. I'm with Grant here, though. I'm really, really looking forward to watching Iowa State this season. They had a really great season last year. Like you said, Breece Hall, I think, is going to do a stellar job at running back for them. And although Iowa State is returning most of its talent from seasons ago, there could be some movement on the depth chart over the course of this next month since they lost starters at tight end, defensive end, and safety following last season. So whoever can replace those players will be interesting to see. And I think that they're going to have a really good dynamic. I think they could definitely challenge Oklahoma. Do I think that they're going to win? No, but I think that they're definitely up there and a team I'm really looking forward to seeing compete.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I think Iowa State is, clear and by far the second best team in this conference. They had not a lot of people expected them to have the season that they did, but even in the Big 12 championship game, they kept it close with Oklahoma for a majority of the game. I think they honestly, I think they scared Oklahoma a little bit and just showing that they could really compete with them. And they're going to take that next big step. Breece Hall is one of the best running backs, if not the best running back in college football right now. He's going to have, a great season. They're going to get him as many touches as, they can. So I really look for him. I think he's possibly a top 3 or 4 Heisman candidate, in my opinion. I'm really sold on him. He's just one of the best, most electrifying backs in college football. So he's going to lead that team to a bunch of wins, and I think they're going to make the Big 12 championship again. And, they'll give Oklahoma a win for their money, but I think that Oklahoma will, they just have too much talent. And Spencer Rattler is really, the best college football quarterback right now. So he's he's going to do everything he can to win and try to get back to that college football playoff. And we'll wrap it up here, going out west to the Pac-12. Very interesting 2020 season for them. Saw Oregon as the 25th AP ranked team take down USC in the conference championship. They are now again the favorites to win the conference. Jaya, we'll go with you. Do you think Oregon can win this conference again, or do you think that somebody will make a big jump and take them down?
Now, Oregon is definitely really strong. I think I would most likely go with them again. But one team that I do think is it's going to be interesting to see if maybe they can make a rise here is going to be Washington for me. I think that they are looking pretty strong. They're having a kind of a QB battle right now. There's 3 contenders, Jaden DeLora, Jarrett Guarantano, and Cameron Cooper. But whoever emerges as that front runner, I think depending on, who steps up to the plate, demonstrates the best leadership, execution, etc. If they have a really strong quarterback for Washington State, I think that they could really, really at least kind of give Oregon a run for their money. But I would still think to pick Oregon as my favorite.
Yeah, Oregon definitely is a favorite, but Washington has been, great as of late. They've actually made the conference championship twice in the past 5 years as well. So, I mean, they're always a team to look out for. Amber, we'll go with you here. Do you think anybody can, take down Oregon? And if so, who?
No, I've got to go with Oregon here. I don't really see any other of the teams stepping up to this right now. What I'm most excited about to watch with Oregon is their development of their new quarterback, Ty Thompson. He's obviously not going to be their starter this year, by no means, but he's the first 5-star quarterback to sign with the Ducks, and I think that's super exciting. I think Anthony Brown is going to get the starting quarterback job, and in 2020, he was first with 164 yards, so I just see Oregon, dominating this conference this year.
Yeah, Grant, who do you think will win this conference, and what team are you excited for the most?
Well, Jaya's got 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I'm jumping all the way in. I think the Washington Huskies are going to win this conference. I think Dylan Morris is going to be the starting quarterback for the team. He's a sophomore, but he's listed on the top of the depth chart by some of the not affiliated sites, but some sites out there. Reportedly, he's been getting the most snaps during their off-season work with the first stringers. So it looks like he's going to be there. He appeared in 3 or 4 games last year, I think, threw 897 yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 picks. Nothing too crazy, but it was a freshman season, so you got to cut him a little bit of slack. And he wasn't the full-time starter anyway, so he was thrown into the fire. If they had Jacob Eason back, I would absolutely pick them, but it looks like he might be starting for the Indianapolis Colts. That's a completely different story. But I still feel like Washington, they're a consistent team, and I feel like they can sense that. Oregon's grip on this division, the Oregon-USC battle, it's not what it was. So I think that Washington senses this can be their time, and they're going to go back, try to get another conference title.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you here that I don't think Oregon will win the conference, but I'm actually going to go with a different team. I'm gonna go with a team in the South Division. I'm gonna go with Arizona State. I think right now Jaden Daniels is one of the top quarterbacks in that conference, and they have plenty of playmakers to get the ball to them. They've got a great running back. They've got a great offensive line. But the thing I really like about Arizona State is their defense. They had the top pass defense in Pac-12. They led all Pac-12 teams in scoring on defense. The really only thing they need to fix is their run game, where they let up, I think, around 160, 170 yards per game. So if they can cut that down, they are a very potent defense. They were bringing back a lot of starters from the 2020 season. So I think that they have a really good chance. They have a very favorable schedule as well. All the really difficult games are more in the beginning of the schedule, so they can really bounce back if they lose and make a good push for that conference championship. I also think USC took a little bit of a step back this season in terms of recruiting as well. So I think really whoever can win between Arizona State or USC will definitely win the conference. I'm not really entirely sold on Oregon. I think, last season they were very iffy. Obviously, they have a ton of speed and great playmakers on offense, but their defense was, outside of Kayvon Thibodeau, was kind of iffy. So I'm not really sold on them. I think that was kind of a fluke conference championship with the fact that there weren't any out of conference games. So I think Arizona State could possibly win this conference and open up some eyes in the college football playoff as well. With that, all right. Well, that being said, that's all the Power 5 conferences. We've got a lot of great teams. Looking forward to a great college football playoff season. You guys have any last minute thoughts? Any last minute dark horse teams that we should be looking out for in the 2021 season?
I'm gonna say go Hokies.
Yeah,
I know
that's what I was
Amber
gonna
joins
say.
me, but
Go Canes!
not gonna be a good season for us probably.
Yeah. All right.
I'm just glad the football season's back.
Yeah, everyone should be. I mean, it's going to be great. A lot of fans are going to be coming back as well, so it should be a very electric season. That being said, we thank you for watching the Sports Supernova Network. Make sure you subscribe. We've got a lot of great content, especially with football season right around the corner. Looking forward to getting all that content out to you guys. That being said, I'm Akshay Kumbar. With me is Grant Mitchell, Jaya Williams, and Amber Williams. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.